Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. My name's Jared. Yeah, I'm that guy, the one with the mom who decided to spawn enough kids to start her own off-brand boy band. 7 kids, people. 7. I'm 18, and let me tell you, I've been raising her minions since I was old enough to wipe my own nose. So when she announced she was pregnant again, I noped right on out. But surprise, she called the cops on me for abandoning my siblings, as if I'm her free live-in nanny. Anyway, this is way past some sitcom-level 7 kids nonsense. Think 7 Deadly Sins, Home Edition. Greed? Check. Wrath? Double check. I swear, if I hadn't lived it, I'd call bullshit too. So, let's roll the tape. Picture this. My parents, basically kids themselves when they had me. Mom was 19. Dad was 20. Real Einstein-level family planning right there. It's like they read a pamphlet on how to ruin your life early and signed up for the platinum package. They couldn't afford their own place, obviously, so we all crashed with my mom's parents. My grandparents. Actually the best years of my childhood, not even lying. My grandpa, I call him Gramps, was an old-school mechanic, a straight-up duct tape wizard. The guy could fix literally anything with a roll of tape and a dirty wrench. He had a whole workshop in the garage that felt like Disneyland for a kid like me. Tools organized, projects that made sense, stuff you could actually finish. Not like my parents' lives, which were, well, let's just say perpetually half-baked, and leave it at that. Then there was Nana. Picture Martha Stewart, but actually warm and nice, and with 0 felony convictions. Homemade everything. Her house always smelled like fresh bread and soap, and there was always a batch of cookies cooling on the counter. I'd come home from school, bad day on my shoulders, and Nana would bust out the hot chocolate like a superhero. She'd sit down, look me in the eye, and listen. I mean, who does that? When I was excited about something, Gramps would drop whatever he was doing and focus on me like I was narrating the cure for cancer. They remembered what I liked. They showed up for my events. They made me feel like I was someone worth being proud of. Meanwhile, my parents? They treated the place like an all-inclusive resort with free childcare. Mom and Dad would roll in at 2 in the freaking morning, reeking of cheap tequila and stale weed, and then sleep until noon, just to wake up whining about how stressed they were from adulting. One day, Gramps was trying to teach Dad how to change a tire. I swear, you could smell Dad's resistance from orbit. Gramps goes, "Son, you have to know this stuff. What happens when you get a flat on the freeway?" My dad, sprawled on the couch, eyes never leaving his video game, goes, "That's what AAA is for, Dad." Gramps sighs, wipes the sweat off his face, and says, "What happens if you can't afford AAA?" Dad just shrugs, still hammering buttons on his controller like a toddler hopped up on sugar. "I'll figure it out when I get there." So my dad's master plan, in case you missed it, was basically let someone else handle it. Responsibility? That was for other people, at least until reality smacked him in the face so hard he couldn't ignore it anymore. And my mom? Honestly, not much better. If her friend Sarah had a crisis, which was code for I need to gossip and do bottom-shelf vodka shots, guess who got dumped on Nana without so much as a courtesy check? "Can you watch him for a few hours, Mom? Sarah really needs someone to talk to." Translation: here's my kid. I'm off to get hammered. When you're 5, face deep in Nana's fresh cookies, and learning how to fix things with Gramps, you don't exactly stop to analyze your parents' moral failings. You just know that this, the grandparents' house, was safe, predictable, and made sense. Which was the total opposite of rolling with my parents, whose idea of stability was basically a new episode of Cops. Then came the move that kicked off my own personal Vietnam. I'm talking napalm in the jungle levels of regret. First grade hits, and my parents decided they were ready to fly solo. They found this rundown rental across town, straight out of a horror movie fixer-upper special, and declared, "We're moving." Why this sudden shot of independence? Drumroll, Mom was pregnant again. Shocker, right? At first I was hyped. Little brother or sister. Our own house. I was 6 and too dumb to know better. If I could go back and slap sense into my baby-faced self, trust me, I would. The house was a downgrade in literally every single possible way. Goodbye Gramps' workshop with its epic toolbox and cool projects. Goodbye Nana's fresh cinnamon rolls. Hello microwave mystery meals and a kitchen the size of a broom closet. The place was a crusty 2-bedroom with walls so thin you could hear the neighbors sneeze. Creaky floors, a yard that was basically a dirt patch, and a front row seat to nightly screaming matches from neighbors who apparently thought UFC rules applied to domestic disputes. But my parents? They were so smug. "Look, Jared, we have our own place now," my mom beamed, gesturing to this cracked plaster palace like it was the freaking Taj Mahal. "Right. Sure, if the Taj Mahal had dead grass, a rusty swing set, and smelled vaguely of stale diapers. Then Screamer arrived, my new brother. Seriously, I'm going to call him Screamer, because that kid had a voice that could shatter glass. And that's when I turned into my parents' personal assistant. It was subtle at first. Hey, buddy, can you grab me a diaper? I don't want to miss the end of this show. Or, Jared, keep your brother quiet. We're trying to have a conversation. I was 7 years old, which, apparently, made me fully qualified to run a childcare center in their minds. Soon those little helps turned into straight-up expectations. I was supposed to feed Screamer, change Screamer, soothe Screamer, while Mom and Dad sat there doing exactly jack squat. And if I ever complained, if I so much as hinted that maybe I wanted to go play outside instead of being a baby wrangler at age 7, Mom would hit me with the classic guilt trip, wagging her finger like she was Mother Teresa. Jared, this is what families do. Don't be selfish. Like wanting to actually be a kid was some kind of character flaw? Apparently, I was supposed to skip right to middle-aged dad mode before I even lost my baby teeth. My dad. Oh, his contribution to this family dumpster fire was Olympic-level laziness. He'd come home from his part-time warehouse job, flop on the couch like a dying fish, and announce, "I worked all day, Jared. I need to decompress," grabbing the TV remote while Screamer was going DEFCON 1 in the next room. Yeah, decompress, Dad. Great. Meanwhile, your actual offspring is detonating his lungs at 140 decibels. Then came the date nights. Yep, Mom and Dad. Off to reconnect as a couple, leaving yours truly, an 8-year-old, alone with a toddler from Hades. Okay, Jared, Mom would say, scribbling down a list on a sticky note like she was briefing a CIA agent. Bedtime is 8 p.m. There's formula in the fridge. Call only if it's an emergency. An emergency? Lady, I was 8. Everything felt like an emergency. Picture me, microwaving SpaghettiOs while Screamer turned purple from shrieking, trying to get him to bed before my brain exploded. They left me with instructions like I was a paid babysitter. Newsflash, I wasn't paid, and I couldn't quit. If Screamer wouldn't stop crying, my fault for not trying harder. If he puked on his onesie, I should have been more careful feeding him. If the house was messy, I should have cleaned up in between wrangling a toddler. It was a level of blame shifting so advanced they could have patented it. And then they decided, hey, let's make more. Over the next 11 years, it was like they were trying to staff their own private daycare center. 5 more kids, each one upping the chaos. So let me introduce you to the cast of the survival horror game I now call my life. First, Screamer, the original. At 10, the kid still lived up to his name, no joke. I swear he could break the city's noise ordinances with one meltdown. Didn't want to wear shoes? Scream. Hated dinner? Scream. Lost his plastic dinosaur? Go nuclear. Then there was the Destroyer, kid number 3. I gave him that name because everything he touched self-destructed within seconds. The gaming headset I'd saved up for? Reduced to tech confetti. The indestructible toy truck? Crushed in under 5 minutes. Kid had hands like a wrecking ball and the self-control of a hummingbird on Red Bull. And Spitter, number 4. My sister. Think Plants vs. Zombies, except she was the plant and everything else was her target. Her signature move? Spitting on literally everything. Mealtimes were basically Russian roulette. You never knew which plate had been compromised. She'd take one sloppy bite of her sandwich, spit it back onto the bread, then proudly offer it to you with a grin, like she was being generous. My parents decided Spitter's lovely habit was just a phase. She'll grow out of it, they said. Right. About as likely as Dad growing out of his couch mold. Spoiler, she never did. Then came Tornado, kid number 5. The name says it all. This boy could turn a perfectly clean room into a war zone in 5 minutes flat. I swear he broke the laws of physics with how fast he spread chaos. You'd watch him enter a room and literally count down from 10 before there were broken toys, cushions everywhere, and probably someone crying. Next, Velcro, kid number 6. This one was clingy like an industrial-strength sticker. He couldn't function unless he was physically attached to me. Guess who he wouldn't attach to? Yeah, our actual parents. If I went to the bathroom alone, tears. If I tried to walk to the mailbox, meltdown. If I breathed funny, catastrophe. And then there was Hurricane, the baby, fresh out of the oven and already following the grand family tradition of making sure everyone's lives were hell. So there it was. 6 disasters. Every time a new one showed up, my parents dumped more responsibilities on me. You're so good with kids, Jared, they'd say, beaming, as if that was some kind of compliment. Translation, we're too lazy to parent, so here, you do it. Now let me paint you a masterpiece of dysfunction. Family dinner. By dinner, I mean frozen pizza. Because cooking anything more complicated than peeling the plastic wrap apparently required a PhD. Mom would heat up a stack of frozen pizzas, slap slices on paper plates, and declare, Dinner's ready, like she'd just served a Michelin-star meal. Of course, Spitter had to add her personal flourish. If she didn't like the pepperoni, it went straight to the floor. Not onto a napkin, not to the side of the plate, not even offered to me. Nope, the floor. I remember gagging a little and saying, "That's disgusting, Dad." She literally just dropped it on the floor. Dad shrugged like he'd seen worse in a prison cafeteria. Kids will be kids, Jared. At least she's eating the rest. Great, Dad. That's a real inspiring parenting standard right there. So obviously I gotta clean it up. Can you grab that pepperoni before someone steps on it? He'd ask, like I was housekeeping staff. But hey, dinner was only one brand of torture. Public outings were a whole new flavor of nightmare. Picture me in Target, trying to herd all 6 of these feral creatures. Tornado was off pulling a Roadrunner act through the toy section. Screamer was going ballistic because we wouldn't buy him a $50 action figure. Destroyer had knocked over an entire display of carefully stacked soup cans. They fell like dominoes in an apocalypse movie. Meanwhile, Spitter was literally licking the shopping cart handle, basically guaranteeing a tetanus side quest, while Velcro was glued to my legs so tight I could barely walk. And my parents? Standing there like they were on vacation, snapping selfies, occasionally yelling "Stop that," without moving a single muscle to actually parent. Other shoppers would gawk at us like we were the main event at the zoo. I wanted a shirt that said, "Not my kids, not my choice," just to avoid the death glares. One lady, witnessing the whole circus, finally snapped in the cereal aisle during one of Screamer's particularly impressive meltdown performances. "Maybe you should control your kids." My mom's response. She flipped her hair like a budget influencer and sighed. "They're just being kids. Some people are so judgmental." Lady, my siblings had just turned an entire Cheerio end cap into a makeshift soccer field. That's not kids. That's feral raccoons in human skin. And the car rides home from these disasters? Honestly, they were worse than the store scenes. Picture this. 7 people crammed into a minivan that smelled like a rotting diaper graveyard. My parents arguing about money, directions, or whose turn it was to change the next atomic diaper. The kids in the back were their own personal Greek chorus of misery. "He's touching me. I have to pee. Are we there yet?" Plus a bonus background track of Hurricane wailing like a banshee because his pacifier fell on the floor. That was the soundtrack of my teenage years, folks. As I got older, the expectations went from "help out" to "congratulations, you're our unpaid employee." Weekends? Mine. School breaks? Mine. Any second I wasn't physically in class. You guessed it, mine. They didn't ask. They announced, "Jared, we're going to dinner Saturday. You'll watch the kids." What if I had plans? Too bad. School event? Not important. Normal teenage activities? Selfish nonsense. Friday nights were the worst. Everyone my age was out seeing movies, going to football games, living a normal teenage dream. Me? I was home changing diapers, refereeing Screamer versus Tornado cage matches, and trying to get 5 kids to bed before the neighbors called CPS. But then, a miracle, or so I thought. My friend Jake was having a party. Nothing wild, just video games and sodas, normal teen stuff. I'd been looking forward to it for weeks. Shockingly, my parents said I could go. I about had a stroke from the excitement. Finally, a taste of freedom. All week, I planned what to wear, what jokes to tell, how to feel like a normal kid for once. Then, 2 hours before the party, my parents dropped the nuclear bomb. Change of plans, Mom said casually, like she was reading the weather. "We decided to catch the late movie. You need to watch everyone." I swear my blood boiled. "But you said I could go to Jake's." I nearly shrieked. My dad shrugged, cool as ever. "Plans change. Family comes first." That was it. I lost it. Years of swallowed frustration just exploded. I never get to do anything. I'm 15. I'm not their dad. My dad's face went dark, like a thundercloud about to burst. "We provide you with food and shelter," he growled. "The least you can do is help out when we need it. Stop being ungrateful." Ungrateful. That was the word Dad hit me with, because I wanted one single night to be a normal teenager. One night. That was the moment my cousin Peter entered the chat. Peter was my mom's nephew, about 25, and basically the last functional adult in the extended family gene pool. The guy had been quietly watching this circus act unravel at holidays for years. That night, he showed up right as my parents were grabbing their keys to head out for their late movie. Peter looked me up and down, clocking my half-decent clothes. "Where's he going, all dressed up?" My mom waved a hand like it was nothing. "Oh, he was supposed to go to some party, but we need him here." She might as well have said he was supposed to breathe oxygen, but we'd prefer he suffocate instead. Peter looked from me to the little demons, who were already going full Lord of the Flies in the living room. "When's the last time this kid actually hung out with friends?" Peter asked. Mom shrugged. "He hangs out with his siblings all the time." Peter raised an eyebrow. "That's not the same thing." Then he turned to me. And I swear, angels might have started singing. Go to your party, Jared. I'll watch them. Cue my mom about to launch into protest mode. But Peter cut her off with this calm, deadly authority I wished I could bottle. He's 15. He should be hanging out with kids his age, not raising yours. Boom. Mic drop. First person in my entire family to say it out loud. My parents tried to argue, of course. We really need. Peter just folded his arms. Look, I'm not a teenager. You can't guilt trip me. Either I watch them or you stay home. Your choice. And that was that. I made it to Jake's party. It was the first time in forever I felt like a normal kid. Video games, pizza that hadn't been pre-chewed or spit on, no one screaming because I picked the wrong bedtime story. Heaven. After that, Peter basically became the big brother I never had. He'd check in on me, take me out for an escape run when things at home got insane, and he never hesitated to call my parents on their nonsense. One night during an ice cream run, he looked me dead in the eye. You know this isn't normal, right? I sighed, repeating the family party line. It's just how our family works. He snorted so hard, he almost sprayed milkshake out of his nose. No, Jared, that's how your parents avoid their responsibilities. There's a difference, kid. Hearing that, it was like someone finally handed me permission to feel angry. Like, I wasn't crazy. This was messed up. And then came the ultimate slap in the face during junior year. Hurricane was born. Yes, yet another. And my parents, in their infinite wisdom, made a decision that still makes my blood boil. Instead of putting Hurricane's crib in their room, like normal humans, they stuck it in mine. Their brilliant logic? You're so good with babies, Jared, and we really need our sleep for work. Oh, they needed their sleep. Sure. Never mind that I had homework, school, tests, a future, and maybe a shot at not turning out like them. So there I was, 16 years old, basically a single dad to my newborn sister. 2 a.m. feedings, diaper blowouts, hours of pacing the floor with a baby who thought sleep was an urban legend, all while trying to keep my grades from crashing and avoid looking like an unpaid extra on The Walking Dead at school. So the setup in my room? Picture a nursery that happened to have a sad, neglected teenage bed in the corner, crib jammed against one wall, a changing table where my desk used to be, bottles and wipes covering every square inch of flat surface. My computer, the one lifeline I had to the outside world, got banished to the far corner like it was being punished. Privacy? Forget it. That ship had sailed straight off a cliff. My parents' bedroom was right down the hall, but they acted like it was in another time zone. I'd stagger out in the morning, dark circles to my knees, and they'd chirp. Oh, we didn't hear her crying last night. Yeah, sure. The whole neighborhood could hear Hurricane's meltdown, but somehow they were in a magical bubble of selective deafness. Because why bother when they knew I'd handle it? The sleep deprivation was next level. Olympic level, really. My grades tanked like a lead anchor. Who could focus on algebra after 3 hours of sleep and 2 rounds of baby vomit? My social life didn't just die, it was straight up murdered, with malice aforethought. Friends stopped inviting me out because I was either too exhausted or straight up unavailable. Academically, it was a complete bloodbath. I went from a solid B+ student to scraping by with barely a C. Teachers noticed. One day, my guidance counselor, Mrs. Preston, sweet lady, honestly, called home to talk about my collapsing GPA. We're concerned about Jared's academic performance, she said. His grades have dropped significantly this semester. Is everything okay at home? My mom, without missing a beat, served up Olympic grade denial. Oh, he's just going through a rebellious phase. You know how teenagers can be. Mrs. Preston, God bless her, tried to reason through the nonsense. His teachers report he falls asleep in class almost daily. Is there something affecting his sleep schedule? My mom, cool as a cucumber. Oh, he probably stays up too late playing video games. Kids these days, you know. Video games. Right. Because between 2 a.m. diaper blowouts, colic, and never-ending lullaby rotations, I was totally dropping in for Fortnite matches. Mrs. Preston gently suggested, maybe Jared would do better with fewer responsibilities at home? That could help him focus on his studies. My mom laughed. Like she'd just heard a comedy routine. Kids these days have it too easy, she chuckled. A little responsibility never hurt anyone. Builds character. Yeah, builds character. And ulcers. So the conversation ended with Mom promising to talk to me about time management, which translated to another guilt lecture. You need to try harder, Jared. Stop making excuses. And then came the ultimate academic gut punch that spring. I'd been accepted to this competitive engineering summer program at the state university, 3 weeks of intense, hands-on coursework that would have made my college application shine like a diamond. The program was insanely selective, looked killer on a resume, and for the first time in months. When I told my parents about getting accepted into the engineering program, the one that could literally change my future, Their response was straight out of a sitcom. Who's going to watch the kids while we work? My mom snapped, like I'd just suggested abandoning them on the freeway. It's only 3 weeks, I said, begging basically. Peter even said he'd help out on weekends. My mom's face twisted. We're not imposing on Peter every time you want to do something. They shut it down. No discussion, no compromise, nothing. Just a brick wall of parental selfishness. My dad had the nerve to pat me on the shoulder like a failed little league coach. There will be other opportunities. Like prestigious summer programs grew on trees or something. I asked when will there be time for other opportunities? He just looked away, zero answers, because the truth was there wouldn't be time. Then I got to watch the rest of my classmates post photos of their amazing summer programs on social media, robotics camps, internships, travel abroad, you name it. These kids weren't any smarter than me. They didn't have better grades. But they had one thing I didn't. Parents who actually prioritized their futures instead of using them as unpaid labor. Meanwhile, I spent my summer breaking up cage fights between Tornado and Spitter, changing diapers, and trying to keep Velcro from eating crayons. And then Aunt Kendra, yes, that Kendra, because of course her name is Kendra, decided to chime in with her 2 cents. Kendra had 2 kids of her own, perfectly groomed angels who'd never even looked at a Cheerio wrong. But she also had a husband who parented and enough money to hire babysitters, so basically she lived on a different planet. Every Sunday, she'd come over, sip coffee, and watch the war zone of our house unfold like she was front row at a reality show. Tornado would be tearing up the living room. Spitter was spit-bombing her sandwich, and I was literally chasing Velcro around the table trying to get him to eat something other than pure sugar. And Kendra would smile, all serene and clueless. You're so lucky to have such a helpful oldest, she'd gush to my mom, while I was one step away from a mental breakdown. Then she'd look over at me like I should be honored by this nightmare. My kids would never be this responsible, she'd say, as if I should hang a medal around my neck. One night, Peter had finally had enough. He called my parents out during Sunday dinner when I was running bedtime like a drill sergeant while mom and dad sat on there, but watching TV. Peter didn't even sugarcoat it. Why is Jared the one putting all the kids to bed? Kendra's eyes turned into laser beams. Some people need to mind their own business, she hissed. Peter shot right back. What family values? Forcing a teenager to raise your kids. Kendra flared up, dramatic as a soap opera villain. He's learning responsibility. It'll make him a better man. Peter's voice went cold. It'll make him resent his family. The tension was so thick you could butter toast with it. My parents just sat there, like this was perfectly normal dinner conversation. Later, while I was cleaning the dinner wreckage in the kitchen, Kendra cornered me with her step-forward smile, dropping her pearls of wisdom. You know how good you have it here, right? She said it while blocking my path to the dishwasher. Prime Kendra move, like she was the gatekeeper of all wisdom. Some kids don't have families that care about them. She sniffed, like she was dropping a profound truth bomb. I was 17, exhausted, half feral, and done with the gaslighting. Yeah, I shot back. Some kids also don't have to be parents to their siblings. Her face went cold, like I'd slapped her with a wet dish rag. Gratitude goes a long way in this family, Jared, she warned. Oh, here we go. Your parents work hard to provide for all of you, she droned, while I was literally scraping Spitter's half-chewed mac and cheese off the floor. And I work hard to raise their kids, I snapped. What's your point? She got this righteous look, like she was on a crusade. Your parents could have put you in foster care when things got difficult. Instead, they kept the family together. Like basic parental responsibility was some kind of shiny act of charity. That's when it clicked for me. Kendra didn't just enable my parents. She truly believed this freak show was normal. It got even worse when Kendra started dragging her 2 perfect angel robot children over for playdates. They'd sit in the living room coloring between the lines like they were in a Hallmark commercial, while my siblings turned the house into a live-action demolition derby. Kendra would hover in the kitchen, sipping herbal tea, making pointed little comments about different parenting styles. Some families are more structured, she'd say, watching Destroyer gleefully attempt to flush a toy car down the toilet. But every family finds what works for them. What worked for us apparently was war zone with a side of child labor. Kendra's visits became my personal hell. She'd praise me in front of my parents, feeding the monster. You've raised such a responsible young man, she'd gush, while I was trying to keep Velcro from licking spilled juice off the floor. Yeah, raised me to be responsible for everyone except myself. Fast forward to last month. I'm 18 now, clinging to senior year with a 2.08 GPA that should have been a 3.5 at least if I'd had a shot at a normal life. That's when the nuclear bomb hit during one of their family meetings. My mom, all glowing and self-satisfied, announced like she was calling out Powerball numbers. We have exciting news. I knew. The room started spinning like I was in Inception. We're having another baby, she beamed. Lucky. Freaking. Number 7. My dad took over in his best corporate manager voice. We're going to need extra help when the baby comes. Good thing you're 18 now, so you can take on more responsibility without any legal issues. Legal issues. They had actually thought about the legal implications of their child labor ring. Screamer, naturally, was psyched. Another baby. Can we name it? Destroyer looked around, clearly confused. Where are we going to put it? There's already no room. Spitter, always a charmer, piped up. Can I feed it? I promise I won't spit on it. And Velcro, bless his codependent little soul, wrapped himself around my leg like a barnacle. Will you take care of this one too? And of course, Hurricane, as if she could read the room, decided to start crying right on cue, wailing like the apocalypse had arrived. I looked at my parents, really looked at them, and saw two people who had learned absolutely nothing after 6 disasters. My mom was positively glowing, like this was the greatest achievement of her life, while my dad wore a smug look that made me want to scream, as if popping out another baby was the ultimate solution to all their problems. And that's when something in me just snapped. I asked my mom, "Why are you pregnant again? What is going on?" She replied, "It's probably something in the air," and I replied, "Yeah, it's your leg." I was done. Completely, utterly, spiritually done. I excused myself, walked to my half-nursery, half-prison of a bedroom, shut the door, and grabbed my phone. Ring ring. Gramps, I said, voice shaking. They made another mistake. I need help. Can I please come live with you? There was about 3 seconds of stunned silence, and then Gramps exploded, not at me, but at the world. Those idiots are having another kid? Jesus Christ, what is wrong with them? Gramps never swore. That's when I knew he was as fed up as I was. Pack your essentials, he ordered, the way you talk to someone fleeing a house fire. We're coming to get you right now. While I was stuffing a duffel bag, my parents started banging on my door, demanding I come out. Jared, Mom shrieked. Come out here and talk to us. Yeah, hard pass. I shoved some clothes in my bag, grabbed my phone charger, and, most important, my birth certificate and social security card, so I'd have my documents ready before escaping my parents. Gramps and Nana showed up in about 30 minutes, tires squealing like they were on a rescue mission. I'd never seen them look so furious. Gramps had this murder glare that could have melted steel, and Nana looked like she was 1 second away from going full WWE on my parents. My parents, meanwhile, looked like they'd just realized their golden goose was flying away. Pure shock. Not sadness. Just panic about who would handle their mess now. You can't just leave, my mom screeched, like I'd broken some ancient contract. Watch me, I said, duffel bag over my shoulder, cool as I could manage. We're your parents, my dad added, puffing himself up like a dollar store dictator. I stopped at the doorway, turned around, and let it rip. No, you're the people who gave birth to me. There's a difference. Gramps stepped up next to me, calm and terrifying. If you treated him like family instead of free labor, maybe he wouldn't be leaving. My dad opened his mouth to argue, but Nana shut him down with one look that could freeze lava. We'll be in touch about his things, she said, crisp as a military general, then gently steered me out the door. As we pulled away, I looked back. My parents were standing there on the porch, deer in the headlights mode, while the kids turned the living room into a WWE battle royale behind them, finally getting a taste of their own parenting skills, or lack thereof. But within hours of my great escape, my phone basically exploded. Angry texts, missed calls, voicemails, it was like my own personal horror movie soundtrack. First came the rage. How dare you abandon your family like this? Get your butt home right now. You're being selfish and ungrateful. When that didn't work, they pivoted to guilt, Olympic-level guilt. Your siblings are asking where you are. Velcro hasn't stopped crying since you left. Then came the manipulation stage, which I saw coming a mile away. We've always been there for you, Mom texted, like we were some tight-knit sitcom family. Family sticks together through thick and thin. Sure, if by thick and thin, you mean Jared handles everything while we pop out more kids. But the message that really showed their true colors? My dad. 2 a.m. No punctuation, just raw desperation. Do you have any idea how much babysitters cost? You can't just leave us hanging like this. Oh, there it was. The mask fully off. This wasn't about losing their son. It was about losing their free babysitter. Mom followed up with her own guilt trip greatest hits. We need you. We can't do this without you. Not because they missed me as their child, but because I was basically the engine running their household. When the guilt stopped working, they switched gears to nuclear-level threats. You're not 18 until graduation. We can force you to come back. We're calling the police. You're making a huge mistake that will ruin your future. And they actually did it. Twice. The first time, I opened the door to find 2 cops standing there, one looking about as thrilled as someone picking up dog poop. They pulled me aside to talk privately. You here willingly? Yeah, I said, practically hugging Gramps in the doorway. He sighed. Okay. Then he went to talk to my parents, who were already trying to breathe fire. But he's still our minor child, my mom screeched. The officer pinched the bridge of his nose. Ma'am, he's 18 and a high school senior. Unless you have proof of kidnapping or coercion, there's nothing we can do. My mom went full drama queen. This is kidnapping. They're turning him against us. The cop looked like he needed a nap. Did your son go willingly? Well, yes, but then it's not kidnapping, he deadpanned. It's an adult making a choice about where to live. 2 days later, round 2. New officer, even less patience. He stepped onto the porch, arms crossed, the look of a man who'd rather be literally anywhere else. We've been through this already, he snapped. Your son is old enough to decide where he wants to live. Maybe focus on the kids you still have at home instead of the one who's clearly capable of taking care of himself. My dad's face went redder than a stop sign. This is harassment. They're interfering with our parental rights. The cop didn't even blink. Your parental rights over an 18-year-old are pretty limited, sir. I suggest you contact a lawyer if you think otherwise. That's when the final boss threat arrived. They were going to sue my grandparents for kidnapping me and interfering with their rights. Gramps, legend that he is, didn't flinch. Go ahead and get a lawyer, he shot back. I'd love to hear you explain to a judge why you're suing to force your son into unpaid childcare. My dad tried to sputter out some comeback. It's not unpaid childcare. It's family responsibility. Gramps tilted his head, steel in his voice. Right. And I'm sure a judge will be very interested in hearing about those family responsibilities. That shut them up real quick. Meanwhile, Peter was feeding me updates straight from the family group chat because, apparently, Kendra had decided to lead a full-scale smear campaign against me. He screen-capped the messages and sent them over like a reality show highlight reel. Kendra, I can't believe he would abandon his family like this after everything they've done for him. His poor mother is beside herself. 7 kids and no help. Peter, absolute legend. Maybe if they'd treated him like a son, he wouldn't have left. Kendra fired back, all wounded pride. He's being selfish and ungrateful. Family sticks together through thick and thin. Peter, family doesn't exploit their kids. Kendra tried. You're filling his head with nonsense about being exploited. He had a roof over his head and food on the table. Peter didn't let it go. And what did he have to do to earn those basic necessities every parent is legally required to provide? Kendra, scene 10:22 p.m., no reply. That was the best part, watching the family narrative start to crack in real time. Other relatives, who'd been lurking in silence, suddenly piped up. Mom's cousin. Wait, why was he doing so much child care? Aren't there 6 other kids and 2 parents? And then Kendra started backpedaling, fast enough to break the sound barrier. He wasn't doing that much, just helping out like any good big brother. Peter was not about to let her rewrite history. He had a baby sleeping in his room and was doing night feeds. That's not helping out. That's being a parent. Kendra probably wished group texts had an undo button. The truth was finally surfacing, and she hated how it made her sister look. That's when things got really interesting. Turns out Gramps and Nana had been low-key running their own investigation like the geriatric FBI. They'd been documenting literally everything. Gramps pulled out this notebook with the seriousness of a man revealing state secrets. Look, he told me, flipping through pages, March 15th, you fell asleep at the dinner table. Said you were up all night with the baby again. He turned another page. April 2nd, missed your school science fair because your parents needed you to babysit. You'd worked on that project for months. Next page. June 10th, noticed you'd lost weight. They'd been preparing for this moment, like military generals planning a siege. When they called CPS, they had receipts going back months. Screenshots of texts where my parents demanded I cancel plans to babysit, photos I'd sent as jokes that actually documented the absolute chaos, even entries about the constant noise and fights. So when the social worker showed up, Mrs. Megan, she was walking into a horror show with a full dossier ready. She stepped into my parents' living room, took one sweeping glance around at what was basically a war zone, and calmly asked, "Where do the children usually play?" She was looking at the disaster zone that used to be a living room. "Oh, anywhere really," my mom chirped to Mrs. Megan, smiling like she'd just been crowned Mother of the Year. "We believe in letting kids be creative." Mrs. Megan, deadpan, just nodded. "I see. And who typically supervises their creativity?" My parents shared that look. You know, the oh crap, what do we say without admitting the truth look. Well, my dad started. Usually our oldest helps out. But he's not available right now. Mrs. Megan arched an eyebrow. Not available? How so? Mom threw out the most desperate lie in history, teenage rebellion face. You know how it is. Mrs. Megan calmly wrote that down. I could practically read her mind through her poker face. Sure, Jan. Then she said, I'd like to speak with the children individually, if that's okay. Watching my parents try to keep their cool was like watching people realize the Titanic was sinking, slow motion panic. So one by one, my siblings marched off with Mrs. Megan, and bless their absolute lack of a filter, they spilled everything. Kids are truly the worst co-conspirators. Who usually got up with the baby? Me. Who helped with homework? Me. Who made sure there was something, anything, that passed for breakfast? Ding ding ding, yours truly. Screamer really nailed the coffin shut. The kid proudly declared, he does everything. Mom and Dad watch TV mostly. Like, thanks bro, love you too. Then came the house inspection. Mrs. Megan asked, in the most professional voice ever, how long has your oldest child been primarily responsible for childcare duties? My parents, sweating bullets. He's not primarily responsible. He just helps out. Mrs. Megan nodded slowly. According to the other children, he handled night feedings, morning routines, and daily care for the infant. Would you consider that helping out? They stammered like bad actors caught without a script. When she asked to see Hurricane's sleeping setup, the cherry on the meltdown sundae arrived. They had to admit, sheepishly, that the crib had been in my room. Mrs. Megan cocked her head. So where is the baby sleeping now? Oh, my mom scrambled. We moved the crib to the living room. Temporarily. While we, figure out a more permanent solution. Temporarily, Mrs. Megan repeated, writing it down with that same sure, Jan look. She wrapped up the initial visit with a polite but icy, I'll be returning for follow-up inspections and individual interviews with each family member. The look on my parents' faces was priceless, like they'd just realized the unpaid babysitter had called in the nuclear strike. And CPS did not play around. After 3 weeks of random drop-ins, paperwork, and interviews, the final verdict landed like a meteor. Inappropriate delegation of parental responsibilities to a minor child resulting in educational impact and emotional stress. In regular people language, they were busted. The consequences were absolutely chef's kiss. Mandatory parenting classes. Not suggested, required. My 30-something parents had to go sit in a classroom with other disaster case parents and learn parenting 101, including what jobs actual children can do versus, raising other children. Required childcare education. I couldn't make this up if I tried. And the best part? 6 months of supervised visits from a family caseworker. Mrs. Megan would be making surprise visits to ensure they weren't pulling the same crap with my remaining siblings. The house, thanks to CPS, now had to hit these minimum cleanliness standards, which, trust me, was a foreign concept in my parents' personal zoo. Actual supervision of the kids was required, too. No more leave them to their creative chaos while scrolling on their phones for 3 hours. And then came my personal favorite rule of all, professional childcare requirement. Yep, they were officially banned from using their own children as unpaid labor. Now, if they wanted a date night or a grocery run without the demon squad, they had to cough up actual money for a certified babysitter. Can you believe it? Money, a revolutionary concept for them. And it didn't stop there. CPS made them sign a written acknowledgement of my rights. That piece of paper spelled out, plain as day, that I had the right to go to school, do extracurriculars, and, be a normal teenager without being shackled to their endless baby army. The best part? The consequences hit them right in their pride and their bank accounts. Word about the CPS investigation spread through their friend circle like wildfire. Suddenly, the people who used to praise my mom for being such a strong mother of 7 were asking some pretty uncomfortable questions. Wait, why did your oldest move out? CPS? Seriously, their image took a nosedive. It was glorious. But the financial damage? Chef's kiss. Professional childcare for 6 kids during a weekly date night was a gut punch. Easily $100 to $150 a night. No more will be back by midnight. Jared, here's a sticky note with feeding instructions. Now they had to either pay someone or drag the kids along and face the meltdown apocalypse themselves. My dad ended up picking up extra shifts just to cover babysitting costs, and my mom had to scale back her part-time hours because, shocker, someone actually had to be home when the kids weren't in school. One Sunday, during another classic family gathering where Kendra was in full enabler mode, she tried to rally the troops. CPS just doesn't understand how close families operate, she huffed. They're interfering with your family dynamics. Peter had reached the end of his rope. Close families, he snapped, don't treat their teenagers like unpaid employees. Maybe if you'd spoken up instead of encouraging this mess, things wouldn't have gotten this far. Kendra bristled. I was supporting my sister. No, Peter shot back. You were enabling child exploitation. You could have heard a pin drop. Even my parents couldn't argue with that one. And then there was the baby. My mom's pregnancy, once the centerpiece of her personality, had turned into a giant stress magnet. The The talk of custody threats died on the vine the second their lawyer, they actually scraped up money for a lawyer, if you can believe it, explained that no judge would force an 18-year-old to return home as an unpaid nanny. The lawyer's advice was basically, try repairing your relationship instead of calling the cops. Geniuses. As for me, I was absolutely thriving. The second I got out of that house, my grades shot back up like a rocket, from a pitiful 2.8 to a 3.6 by the end of senior year. Turns out a full night's sleep makes a guy smarter. Who knew? I even got into that engineering program I'd missed the previous summer. They had a spring session, and they held a spot for me after I explained my situation. My college apps were finally looking solid, and on top of that, Gramps' buddy gave me a part-time gig at his auto shop. Real work, that paid actual money. Revolutionary. Gramps and Nana, absolute legends, refused a single cent from my parents for anything related to me. We're investing in our grandson's future, Nana told my mom during one heated phone call. Something you should have been doing all along, Nana had told my mom, and she was right. Honestly, my relationship with my parents is basically scorched earth at this point, and I'm good with that. If they want to stay mad, let them. I'm finally living my own life. Some of my siblings, though, started getting curious, which was equal parts heartwarming and tragic. They didn't understand why I left or why random strangers with clipboards kept showing up to the house. Screamer, bless his loud, nosy little heart, straight up asked my mom one night, why did Jared have to take care of Hurricane at night? Isn't that parent stuff? My mom, with the same weak excuse she'd been rehearsing since the dawn of time, answered, it's okay. Families have to help each other. But Screamer wasn't buying that crap. Kid had developed a sense of logic from somewhere, probably Gramps' genes skipping a generation. But why didn't you help him with his homework like he helped us? He shot back. Boom. Out of the mouths of babes. I almost wanted to stand up and applaud from across town. Peter has basically become my honorary big brother, the kind I never knew I needed. He checks in on me, takes me out for coffee, makes sure I don't slip back into crisis mode. He even gave me a ride to my first day at the auto shop job, cheering me on like a proud coach. Meanwhile, my parents are finally, getting a taste of their own medicine. They're learning, the hard way, what it actually takes to raise 6 kids. Peter summed it up perfectly the last time we talked. Welcome, he told my parents, his voice dripping with sarcasm. To what actual parenting costs. Most people figure that out before having 6. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.